In the coldest winter of the Korean War, just 3 miles from the front lines, there was a 26-year-old nurse working at a small MASH hospital named Margaret Angel Chen. On December 15, 1951, she departed on an ambulance for a patient evacuation and never returned. Military records listed her as lost in enemy fire. 40 years later, a group of mountain climbers trekking in the Korean mountains were shocked by what they found frozen in a snow-covered cave. Margaret's medical kit had been perfectly preserved in the cold for 40 years. The documents and personal items inside would reveal what she had encountered on that final day and why she never came back. This isn't just the story of a missing nurse. This is the story of a woman who never lost her humanity, even in war's darkest moments. And the truth discovered 40 years later would show that what Margaret Chen did that night was far more courageous than anyone had imagined. Before we begin, if you respect the sacrifice of Korean War heroes, let us know in the comments and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Margaret Lee Chen was born in 1925 in San Francisco's Chinatown district. Her father David Chen ran a small family restaurant, while her mother Rose was a healer who combined traditional Chinese medicine with modern medicine. From childhood, Margaret worked alongside her mother, learning how to clean wounds, reduce fevers, and help patients. As the third child in the family, Margaret was different from her two older brothers James and William. While her brothers wanted to continue their father's business, Margaret's eyes were always set on bigger dreams. She was one of the brightest students in high school, and her teachers thought she should go to medical school. In the early 1940s, the dream of medical school for an Asian woman was nearly impossible. However, Margaret's determination was strong enough to overcome any obstacle. She won a scholarship to UCSF School of Nursing and graduated with honors in 1947. Margaret was only 16 when Pearl Harbor was attacked, but from that day forward, the desire to serve her country never left her mind. After graduation, she applied directly to the Army Nurse Corps. Her family strongly opposed this decision, especially her mother Rose. "Why are you putting yourself in danger?" her mother had asked. "You can heal patients here too." Margaret's answer was simple. "Mother, our soldiers need my help. Their families also want them to return home safely. I am a daughter of those families too." In 1948, Margaret joined the Army Nurse Corps. She completed her basic training at Fort Bragg and then specialized in surgical nursing. Her instructors noticed that Margaret could maintain her composure even under stress and could comfort patients even in the most difficult situations. Margaret earned the nickname Angel because of her magical touch in healing patients. The care and compassion she showed to wounded soldiers accelerated their recovery process. She didn't just treat wounds, she also healed the soldiers' spirits. In 1950, Margaret was working at Brooke Army Medical Center at Fort Sam Houston. With the outbreak of the Korean War, experienced nurses were urgently needed. Margaret volunteered without hesitation. "There are soldiers there who need me," she told her commander. "I'm ready." In February 1951, Margaret was deployed to Korea. During the 10 days on the ship, she underwent intensive training with other medical personnel. She was briefed about the harsh conditions in Korea: extreme cold, limited supplies, constant enemy threats. In her last letter to her family, Margaret had written, "Dear family, I'm going to Korea. Am I scared? Yes. But I will save as many soldiers' lives as I can. If something happens to me, know that you should be proud. Because I will die serving my country and humanity." In March 1951, Margaret Chen was assigned to the 8063rd MASH Mobile Army Surgical Hospital Unit. This hospital was positioned just 15 miles from the front lines, north of Seoul. MASH hospitals were mobile hospitals established to treat wounded soldiers as quickly as possible. The 8063rd MASH had a capacity of 60 beds, but during intense combat periods it was forced to treat over 200 patients. The hospital consisted of tents and was kept ready to relocate at all times. Margaret's first days were difficult. In March in Korea, the air temperature could drop to -15 degrees Fahrenheit. The hospital tents were heated with small stoves, but this heating system was insufficient. Margaret had to learn patient care without removing her thick gloves. There were a total of 12 nurses in the hospital, and only 4 of them were experienced operating room nurses. Margaret quickly became one of the most valuable nurses in the hospital. Her composure and speed were indispensable for doctors during operations. Dr. Jonathan Mac Reddy, The chief physician had said about Margaret, "Chen is the best operating room nurse I've ever seen. Her presence changes the operating room environment." You can see that patients also find morale. Working conditions at the hospital were very difficult. 12-hour shifts had become routine. Most of the wounded soldiers came with frostbite, shrapnel wounds, and gunshot wounds. Margaret dealt with an average of 30-40 wounded soldiers daily. The special feature of MASH hospitals was taking casualties from the front lines, treating them quickly, and either healing them or transferring them to larger hospitals. The success of this system was based on the golden hour concept. Treating the wounded within the first hour greatly increased their chances of survival. Margaret's job wasn't just operating room nursing. She also coordinated patient transfers. Determining which patients needed urgent transfer to larger hospitals was her responsibility. By November 1951, Margaret had worked continuously for 8 months. She had never taken leave, only being absent from duty for 3 days, when she was very ill. Other nurses began calling her the Iron Angel. Margaret's correspondence with her family showed that her morale remained high despite the harsh conditions. In a letter to her mother, "Dear Mother, it's very difficult here, but every day we're saving someone's son, father, brother. This gives me strength." In early December 1951, Chinese forces launched a major offensive. The 863rd MASH suddenly faced a very intense influx of patients. They worked non-stop for 72 hours. Margaret had only slept 4 hours during this period. On the morning of December 15, 1951, Margaret had just completed her night shift and was about to rest. However, an urgent patient transfer request came in. December 15, 1951, 06:30 a.m. Margaret Chen had just completed her night shift and was planning to rest for a few hours on her bunk in her tent. Outside, snow was falling and the temperature showed -18 degrees Fahrenheit. The hospital tents were freezing cold despite the stoves running. At 07:15, Margaret was awakened by an urgent call from the communications tent. "Chen, emergency patient transfer," shouted Sergeant Miller. Margaret immediately put on her uniform and ran to the communications tent. Inside, Major Patricia Williams, head nurse, and Dr. McReady were waiting. "Margaret," said Major Williams, "there's an urgent evacuation request from Oslo Outpost. There are 6 severely wounded and we need to transfer them by ambulance." Oslo Outpost was a small medical station, about 25 miles north of the 863rd MASH, very close to the front lines. Normally it was where lightly wounded were treated, but during major battles, severely wounded also came there. "Weather conditions are very bad," said Dr. McReady. "Helicopter dispatch is impossible. You'll need to go by ambulance." Margaret hesitated. The road to Oslo Outpost was very close to enemy lines. Last week an ambulance had hit a mine on the same road, but the lives of 6 severely wounded were in danger. "Okay," said Margaret. "I'm going." Major Williams said, "You can't go alone. Corporal Davis will be the driver, and Medic Johnson will assist you." Margaret prepared her medical kit. She put blood transfusion kits, morphine, bandage materials, serum sets, and emergency surgical materials inside. She also placed her personal belongings in a small bag, her family's photograph, the last letter from her mother, and a small notebook. At 08:45, the M43 ambulance was ready. This vehicle was an armored ambulance specifically designed for Korean conditions. Inside there were 4 stretchers and a medical supply cabinet. Corporal James Davis was 22 years old, from an Iowa farm background. He had been serving in Korea for 6 months and was experienced in such transfer missions. Medic Robert Johnson was 25 years old, a technician with medical training. "Ready, nurse?" asked Davis. "Let's go," said Margaret. The ambulance departed from the 863rd MASH at 09. Road conditions were very poor. Snow depth had reached 30 centimeters, and visibility didn't exceed 50 meters. Davis tried to drive slowly and carefully. The first 10 miles passed without problems. However, as they approached Oslo Outpost, signs indicating increased enemy activity began to appear. Artillery sounds could be heard in the distance. At 10:30 the ambulance arrived at Oslo Outpost. The medical station was a small complex consisting of tents and prefabricated buildings. Inside there were 8 wounded soldiers, and 6 of them were indeed in serious condition. Margaret quickly assessed the wounded. Private Wilson, Abdominal wound, suspected internal bleeding. Sergeant Thompson, left leg amputation. Private Rodriguez, head trauma, unconscious. Corporal Anderson, chest wound, breathing difficulties. Private Kim, right arm fracture, in shock. Sergeant Murphy, burn wounds, 30% surface area. We can't take them all at once, said Margaret. Let's take the three most critical first. Wilson, Thompson, and Rodriguez were loaded into the ambulance. Margaret prepared all the materials needed to care for them during the journey. At 11:15, the ambulance left Oslo outpost. On the return journey, weather conditions had worsened even more. A blizzard had started. At 11:45, the ambulance was about 12 miles from the 8063rd MASH. Margaret was caring for the wounded in the back. Private Wilson's condition was deteriorating, and he urgently needed a blood transfusion. Davis, can you speed up? Asked Margaret. We're losing Wilson. I'm going as fast as I can, nurse, replied Davis. The road is very slippery. Just then they heard gunfire from the right side. A Chinese patrol had spotted the ambulance. Enemy contact, shouted Davis. Hold on. Davis stepped on the gas and accelerated the ambulance. Bullets were whizzing from behind. The rear window of the ambulance cracked, but didn't shatter. Mayday! Mayday! Johnson was trying to call for help on the radio. This is Tiger 7. We're under enemy fire. Position approximate grid 18 VIF 50 1542. Immediate assistance required. The responding voice. Tiger 7, this is base control. Understood. But we can't send air support due to weather conditions. We're alerting nearby friendly units. Margaret was trying to protect her wounded while the ambulance jolting made it difficult. Wilson's pulse was dropping. At 12:10, the ambulance came under heavier enemy fire. This time, fire was coming from both right and left. Chinese forces had ambushed the ambulance. We're surrounded, shouted Davis. They've blocked the road. Ahead there were tree trunks dragged across the road and armed Chinese soldiers waiting. Davis was forced to stop the ambulance. Hands up, get out! A voice shouting in English was heard. Margaret turned to Johnson. Send the final radio message. Try to give coordinates. Johnson leaned into the radio. Base control. This is Tiger 7. Captured. Grid position 18742. 4 personnel, 3 wounded. Tell my family. The radio exploded. Chinese soldiers had surrounded the ambulance. As they exited the ambulance, Margaret clutched her medical kit tightly. Inside were not only medical supplies but also highly classified documents. These documents revealed Margaret's true mission. She wasn't just a nurse, she was also a military intelligence operative. She had been tasked with gathering information about the condition of American prisoners. Chinese commander Colonel Chen Wei, same surname as Margaret but not related, took the ambulance personnel to a small outpost for interrogation. The outpost was an old Korean farmhouse. While searching Margaret's kit, Colonel Chen found the classified documents. You're not a nurse, he said in a cold voice. You're a spy. Margaret tried to deny it. I'm just a nurse. Those documents are patient records. But when Chen examined the documents, he realized they were military intelligence reports. Margaret was researching the locations, conditions, and escape possibilities of American POWs. These documents show the locations of our POW camps, said Chen. You're planning rescue operations. Margaret's real mission wasn't just intelligence gathering. She was also coordinating American prisoner rescue operations. Her medical duties provided perfect cover for these activities. Chen separated Margaret from the other prisoners. Davis and Johnson were sent to a regular POW camp. The wounded, after receiving minimal medical care, were also transferred to the prisoner camp. Margaret was held separately for special interrogation. December 16, 1951. Night, Margaret was being held in a cold barn building with her hands tied. Chinese soldiers began applying psychological pressure to force her to reveal intelligence information. The interrogation officer, Major Liu Shang, spoke English very well. He had been educated at West Point in America and knew American military tactics. Margaret Chen, said Liu, you are a very valuable prize. The information inside you is very important to us. Margaret said nothing except name, rank, and serial number. According to Geneva Convention rules, Prisoners of war were not required to speak beyond this information. But Lou had information about Margaret's family, your family living in San Francisco. David Chen, Rose Chen, James Chen, William Chen. Their safety depends on your cooperation. This open threat shook Margaret. But she still resisted. On December 17th, Lou changed his tactics. He took Margaret to a building near the camp where American POWs were held. From there she could hear the screams of captured American soldiers. "Here are the men you're trying to save," said Lou. "They're suffering. If you talk, their situation can improve." For Margaret, this was a greater torture. Hearing her comrades suffer was more painful than physical torture. On the night of December 18th, Lou made his final offer. "Listen, Margaret. I'm offering you a deal. You will give details of American rescue plans. In return, I will release you and 20 American POWs. This is a fair deal." Margaret knew this offer was a trap. If she gave the rescue plans, future operations would be endangered, and more American soldiers could be captured. But on the other hand, there was a chance to save the lives of 20 American soldiers. Margaret made her most difficult decision that night. December 19th, 1951. While Margaret was preparing to give Lou her answer, she was developing an escape plan. Some materials hidden in her medical kit could be used for escape. Margaret's kit contained special devices alongside normal medical supplies. A small radio transmitter for emergencies, compass, survival kit, plastic explosives, very small amount for breaking locks, lock-picking tools. These materials showed that Margaret was not just a nurse, but also a trained intelligence operative. Margaret's plan was as follows. Give Lou false information. Escape when security was reduced. Rescue American POWs. All escape together southward. On the evening of December 19th, Margaret had her final meeting with Lou. "Okay," said Margaret, "I'll give the information. But first I want to see the condition of the American POWs." Lou accepted this proposal. He took Margaret to the POW camp. There were 35 American soldiers in the camp. Their condition was very poor. Due to inadequate nutrition, lack of medical care, and poor treatment, most had become very weak. Margaret requested permission to talk with the POWs. "Just medical condition control," she told Lou. "I'm a nurse. I want to assess their health condition." Lou agreed, but closely monitored Margaret. While talking with the POWs, Margaret secretly explained the escape plan. She communicated the escape day and time to each soldier using sign language. The plan: at 0200 on December 20th, Margaret would neutralize the guard, free the POWs, and they would all escape southward together. December 20th, 1951, 1:45 a.m. Margaret was preparing to escape from where she was being held in the guardhouse. She opened the door with lock-picking tools from her medical kit. Outside there were only 2 guards. Margaret had mixed sleeping herbs into the guards' tea using traditional Chinese medicine knowledge she learned from her mother. The guards should have been asleep by now. Margaret quietly advanced toward the POW camp. She cut the wire fences around the camp with small cutting tools from her kit. At 0200, she reached the POW barracks. Inside, 35 American soldiers were waiting for her. "Are you ready?" whispered Margaret. "We're ready," said Sergeant Mike O'Connor, the unofficial leader of the POWs. Margaret quietly led the POWs out of the barracks. The escape route went south through forested areas. They needed to walk about 15 miles to reach American lines. The first 5 miles passed without problems. The group of 36 people, Margaret, 35 POWs, advanced through the snow-covered forest in single file. Margaret led the way, determining direction with her compass. At 0430, the first problem arose. One of the POWs, Private Edwards, deteriorated. Long-term captivity had weakened him greatly, and he became unable to walk in the cold. "I can't continue," said Edwards. Margaret took out a stimulant from her medical kit and injected it into Edwards. This would give him temporary energy. "You must endure," said Margaret. "Only 10 miles left." At 06:00, the sun began to rise and visibility increased. This was both good and bad news for the escape group. They could find direction better, but they could also be spotted more easily by enemy patrols. At 07:15, the nightmare became real. Motor sounds were heard in the distance. Chinese forces had sent trucks and motorcycles to track the escapees. "Hide!" shouted Margaret. The group hid behind thick trees. But hiding a group of 36 people completely was impossible. Chinese patrols were following tracks in the snow. At 07:45, Chinese soldiers surrounded the group. "Stop! Hands up!" Major Lu's voice echoed through the forest. Margaret decided to use the small plastic explosive from her medical kit as a last resort. The explosive would create chaos and give the POWs a chance to escape. "Run!" shouted Margaret, detonating the explosive. The explosion shook the trees and temporarily confused the Chinese soldiers. The POWs scattered in all directions. But Margaret sacrificed herself to ensure the POWs could escape. By drawing the Chinese soldiers' attention to herself, she gave others time to escape. When Major Lu captured Margaret, he was very angry. "You made a very big mistake," he said. "Now there's no mercy." December 21, 1951, after Margaret's capture, the situation became even worse. Major Lu began holding her under tighter security in a cold cave. The cave was like a natural freezer. The temperature was constantly below -10 degrees Fahrenheit. Margaret was given only a thin blanket. Licho's purpose was to physically wear down Margaret to force her to reveal intelligence information. But Margaret's resistance proved much stronger than Licho expected. On December 22, Lu made his final offer. "Margaret, this is your last chance. Either you talk or you die here. The choice is yours." Margaret's response perfectly summarized her character. "Major Lu, I am an American nurse. My duty is to save lives. You're asking me for information that would cause more deaths. I will never do that." Lu applied one last tactic to break Margaret's determination. He told her that some of the captured POWs had been caught and would be executed. "Look," said Lu. "Because of you, your friends will die." But Margaret knew this was a bluff. Lu found keeping POWs alive more valuable for exchanges. On the night of December 23, Margaret's condition became critical. She began showing signs of hypothermia. Her body temperature was dropping and her consciousness was coming and going. In the cave, alone, fighting death, Margaret opened her medical kit one last time. She took out her small notebook and began writing her final message. This note would be the most important document found 40 years later. December 23, 1951. Dear family, if you are reading this note, it means I am no longer alive. But don't be sad. I did the right thing. I tried to save 35 American soldiers. Not all of them escaped. But most were saved. This is enough for me. They asked me to betray my country. I didn't do it. As a nurse, as an American, as a human being, I did the right thing. Mother, father, I love you very much. James, William, I'm proud to be your sister. My last word to you is this. It's not surviving that matters, but living right. In this notebook there are Chinese forces' positions, numbers, and plans. If this information reaches American forces, it can save many lives. POPO camp location. Grid 234. Chinese force count, approximately 2,000 soldiers. Weak points. South Gate. Minimal security between 05000000. Use this information. Don't let more children be lost in this war. With love forever, Margaret Angel Chen. P.S. If any of the POWs who managed to escape survive, tell them Angel remembers them. After writing the note, Margaret hid the notebook in the most secret section of her medical kit. She also hid the kit in the deepest point of the cave, under the ice. December 24, 1951, Christmas Eve. Margaret Chen gave her life for her country and friends in the cold cave. In her last breath she was thinking of their home in Bar Harbor and her family's smiles. December 25, 1951, Christmas Day. Major Lu discovered that Margaret had died. Her death was a great disappointment for Lu. He had lost his most important prisoner without obtaining very valuable intelligence information. Li removed Margaret's body from the cave, but couldn't find her medical kit. Margaret had hidden it so well that Lu and his men searched for hours but couldn't find it. Lu's report reached his superiors as follows. American nurse Margaret Chen died during interrogation. No valuable intelligence information was obtained. During the POW escape operation, 23 out of 35 American soldiers managed to escape. 12 were recaptured. This report was completely false. In reality, 31 of the POWs had managed to escape and only 4 had been recaptured. But Lew had manipulated the numbers to hide his own failure. On the American side, there was also no accurate information about Margaret's fate. At the 863rd MASH, Margaret was recorded as lost in enemy fire. The official letter Major Patricia Williams sent to Margaret's family read, "Dear Mr. and Mrs. Chen, it is with great sadness that I must inform you that your daughter First Lieutenant Margaret Chen was lost in enemy fire on December 15, 1951. She was exposed to enemy attack during a patient transfer mission. Margaret was an excellent nurse and an exemplary soldier. Her sacrifice saved the lives of many wounded. Her loss is a great tragedy for all 863rd MASH personnel. Margaret's body has not yet been found, but we are classifying her as killed in action. She has been deemed worthy of the Purple Heart and Bronze Star medals. With deepest respects, Major Patricia Williams, 806-3rd." This letter didn't reflect Margaret's real story at all. There was no mention of her intelligence duties, POW rescue operation, and sacrifice. The U.S. Army classified Margaret's real mission. This information was archived at top-secret level and was never disclosed for 50 years. Margaret's family could never learn their daughter's real story. For them, Margaret was just a brave nurse who died on an ambulance mission. 1991 was the 40th anniversary of the Korean War. During this period, many documents related to the war began to be declassified. With the end of the Cold War, old intelligence files became less sensitive. Military historian Dr. David Park started a research project on Korean War POW experiences. Park was a Korean-American historian who specifically focused on the stories of Asian American servicemen. During Park's research, Margaret Chen's name came up several times. In different POW testimonies, a nurse named Angel was mentioned. "How much do we know about Margaret Angel Chen?" Park asked Pentagon Archives. The answer was surprising. Classified. Access denied. This increased Park's curiosity even more. Why would a normal nurse's records still be classified? Park decided to contact Margaret's family. Margaret's older brother William Chen was 68 years old at the time and living in San Francisco. "What do you know about Margaret?" asked Park. William's answer was sad. "Very little. She was a brave nurse who died in Korea. We don't know anything else." Park showed William his research findings. Testimonies from different POWs mentioning Margaret showed she wasn't just a normal nurse. "Margaret's story could be much bigger," said Park. "If we continue research, we might learn the truth." William was initially hesitant. For 40 years, the family had accepted Margaret's simple heroic death. Now the possibility of a more complex story was frightening. But finally, William decided to support the research. "Whatever Margaret's real story is, we have the right to know it," he said. Park's research intensified during the winter of 1991-1992. He began systematically reviewing Korean War records. In spring 1992, Park achieved an important breakthrough. Among declassified CIA documents, he found records of an intelligence mission called Operation Angel. Mission details were classified, but the mission date exactly matched Margaret's disappearance date. Margaret was an intelligence operative. Park told William, she wasn't just a nurse, she was also a secret agent. March 1992. While Dr. Park's research continued, an unexpected discovery occurred in Korea. Mountain climbers from the Korean Alpine Club discovered a natural cave while trekking in the Taebaek Mountains. The cave had never been explored since the 1950s. The glaciers inside had perfectly preserved the contents. The leader of the climbing team, Kim Sung-ho, noticed a metallic object in the depths of the cave. "There's something here," he told his team. By melting the ice, they revealed the object. It was a military medical kit with U.S. Army written on it. Kim realized this was from the Korean War period. He reported it to the South Korean government. A few days later, ROK Army, Republic of Korea Army team officially recovered the medical kit. The items inside the kit were in exceptional preservation condition. The major items inside the kit were medical instruments, perfectly preserved, medication vials, labels still readable, personal notebook, pages intact, photographs, clear images. military identification documents, small compass, emergency radio transmitter, personal letters. The most important item was the personal notebook. Inside there was a final message written in Margaret's handwriting. The ROK Army transferred the kit to the U.S. Army. The kit was sent to the Pentagon for analysis. Initial analysis at the Pentagon confirmed that the kit belonged to Margaret Chen. Identification documents and photographs matched official records. But the real shocking discovery was the final message in the notebook. When Pentagon analysts read the message, they understood the scope of Margaret's real mission. She wasn't just doing POW rescue, but also Chinese military intelligence gathering. The Chinese troop positions, numbers, and tactical plans in the notebook were incredibly accurate. This information, if it had reached American forces in 1951, could have changed the course of the Korean War. The Pentagon immediately classified this discovery. No public information, no statements to the media. But Dr. Park continued his investigation. April 1992. Dr. Park learned about the medical kit discovery through his contacts at the Pentagon. Although official channels were blocked, Park tried alternative routes. Park's Korean connections gave him details about the kit discovery. ROK Army sources described the nature of the items inside the kit. Margaret's final message was found. Park told William Chen. She was an agent who died heroically. When William heard this news, he was overwhelmed. For 40 years he had mourned Margaret's simple death. Now he was learning about her complex, heroic life. "What does the message say?" asked William. Park couldn't obtain an official transcript from the Pentagon, but Korean sources had given general information about the message's content. "Margaret died trying to rescue POWs," said Park. But she wasn't just on a rescue mission. She was also gathering intelligence. In her final message, she gave critical information about Chinese forces. When William understood the scope of Margaret's real courage, he felt a mixture of pride and sadness. "Margaret was always braver than we supported," he said. Park made a proposal to William: we should tell Margaret's story to the public. Her heroism should be recognized. But there were legal obstacles. The Pentagon was keeping the kit contents classified. Special authorization was needed for public disclosure. William decided to take legal action. He requested Margaret's records under the Freedom of Information Act. The process took months. The Pentagon initially showed resistance, but with media pressure and support from veteran organizations, partial disclosure was achieved. January 1993. The Pentagon released a limited statement about the Margaret Chen case. First Lieutenant Margaret Chen performed extraordinary service during the Korean War. Beyond her medical duties, she participated in prisoner of war assistance operations. Personal effects found in 1992 confirm her dedication and courage. Due to classification requirements, full details cannot be released. But Lieutenant Chen's service is worthy of the highest military honors. This statement caught the media's attention. Margaret's story was featured in national news. The headline in the San Francisco Chronicle read, "Local Hero's Secret War Service Revealed After 40 Years." The article detailed Margaret's background, family history, and Korean War service. But actual mission specifics were still classified. Margaret's story especially resonated in the Asian American community. She was one of the few Asian American women to play a prominent role in military service after World War II. The Chinese American Museum organized a special exhibit in Margaret's honor. The exhibit celebrated her life, service, and sacrifice. Items displayed in the exhibit: Margaret's childhood photo, nursing school graduation picture, military service records, declassified portion, family letters, replica medical instruments, Korean War context materials. The most powerful exhibit piece was a partial replica of Margaret's personal notebook recovered from the medical kit. Classified content was redacted, but the emotional tone was clear. Visitors could read Margaret's final words from the notebook. "Dear family, I did the right thing. It's not surviving that matters, but living right." These words deeply moved visitors. With Margaret's story becoming public, the Korean War veteran community showed a strong reaction. Rescued POWs were learning Margaret's full story for the first time in decades. Sergeant Mike O'Connor, then 68 years old, had an emotional breakdown when he heard Margaret's story. "For 40 years I wondered what happened to Margaret," said O'Connor. "Now I learned that she gave her life for us." Angel was a real angel. The Korean War POW Association organized a special ceremony to honor Margaret. The ceremony was attended by rescued POWs and their families. The most touching moment of the ceremony was O'Connor's speech. Margaret Chen didn't just rescue us from captivity. She saved our humanity. In Chinese camps we had lost hope. Margaret gave us hope back. She convinced us to escape, made the plans, took the risks, and finally gave her life for our freedom. We have children and grandchildren who will never see Margaret, but because of her sacrifice we lived and formed families. Margaret Chen is an American hero, but more importantly, she is a human hero. At the ceremony, a memorial plaque was unveiled in Margaret's honor. First Lieutenant Margaret Angel Chen, United States Army Nurse Corps, 1925. She gave her life so others could live free. Her courage saved 31 American prisoners of war. Her sacrifice honored all who serve. Living right is more important than surviving. MC. By the end of 1993, Dr. Park, who had received partial clearance from the Pentagon, was able to conduct a detailed analysis of Margaret's medical kit. The kit contents provided remarkable information even after 40 years. The physical condition of the kit demonstrated the effectiveness of the Taebaek Mountain's natural refrigeration. Sub-zero temperatures had preserved organic materials. Dr. Park's analysis findings: medical instruments, standard nurse kit, scalpels, forceps, bandages, specialized tools, lockpicks disguised as medical instruments, emergency surgical supplies, morphine vials, some unused, intelligence equipment, miniature radio transmitter sophisticated for 19, coded frequency list, encryption keycard, compass with hidden markings, map with Chinese positions, personal items, family photographs excellently preserved, letters from home, emotionally powerful, personal jewelry, small cross necklace, diary notebook, most significant item, documents, mission orders, partially readable, POW camp layouts hand-drawn, Chinese troop movement notes, escape route maps. The most significant discovery was the detailed entries in the diary notebook. Margaret had taken comprehensive notes during her final days. Diary entries chronologically. December 20. Escape failed. 4 POWs captured. 31 escaped. Mission partially successful. Chinese forces trying to interrogate me. Won't give intelligence. December 20. Conditions worsening. Major Liu increasing pressure. Wants POW locations. Won't put them in danger. Threatening my family, but this is bluff. December 22. Physical condition declining. Cave. Very cold. But morale high. Doing the right thing. American servicemen returned home. December 23, 1951. Final entry. Final message. Strength decreasing, but proud. 31 brothers saved. Intelligence safe. Chinese plans in this note. Use this information. Save more lives. Angel, over and out. After this final entry, Margaret detailed Chinese military intelligence, troop numbers, positions, supply routes, communication frequencies, all incredibly accurate. Dr. Park assessed the value of this intelligence. If this information had been available in 1951, American casualties in the Korean War could have been significantly reduced. Margaret's intelligence notes were a revelation for Korean War historians. Her observations provided unprecedented insight into the Chinese People's Volunteer Army's winter 1951 strategy. Military historian Dr. James Bradford analyzed Margaret's notes. Margaret Chen wasn't just a nurse, she was an exceptional intelligence analyst. Her observations were as detailed and accurate as professional military intelligence reports. Chinese troop movements, supply chains, command structure. Margaret documented everything. This information is changing the strategic analysis of the Korean War. According to Margaret's notes, Chinese strategy. Winter 1951. Massive troop buildup. Margaret estimated 200,000 soldiers. Supply shortages. Food, ammunition, medical supplies. Communication vulnerabilities. Radio frequencies predictable. Morale issues. Many soldiers reluctant fighters. Strategic weaknesses. Supply lines overextended. Winter equipment inadequate. Medical support minimal. Command coordination poor. This information could have potentially changed the Korean War outcome. Chinese offensives could have been countered by exploiting supply vulnerabilities. Dr. Bradford's conclusion: Margaret Chen's sacrifice wasn't just humanitarian, it was strategic. She made a major contribution to the war effort, but received no recognition. The Pentagon kept this analysis secret. Public release could have created diplomatic complications. In spring 1994, Margaret's family finally achieved closure. After 43 years, they had learned her real fate. William Chen traveled to Korea to recover Margaret's remains. The ROK government assisted with search operations. An extensive search was conducted in the Taebaek Mountains. Ground-penetrating radar, archaeological teams, military specialists all tried to find Margaret's burial site. The search lasted 3 months, but Margaret's physical remains could not be found. Mountain conditions, 40 years of weathering, wildlife activity, all had eliminated evidence. William was disappointed, but understanding. Margaret's spirit has already returned home, he said. As a substitute, William officially received Margaret's medical kit. The Pentagon approved returning the kit to the family with classified materials removed. The kit was returned to the family home in San Francisco. William placed the kit in Margaret's childhood bedroom. The room had remained unchanged for 43 years. As Margaret's final resting place, a memorial headstone was placed at San Francisco National Cemetery. First Lieutenant Margaret Angel Chen, United States Army Nurse Corps, Korean War intelligence operative, 1920. She died so others could live free. Purple Heart, Bronze Star, Distinguished Service Cross, beloved daughter, sister, and American hero. The memorial service attracted hundreds of attendees. Family, friends, veterans, community members, all gathered to honor Margaret. The most moving moment of the service was when rescued POW Sergeant O'Connor approached Margaret's mother, Rose. "Mrs. Chen," said O'Connor, tears streaming, "your daughter saved my life. Because of her I came home to my family. I named my daughter Margaret in her honor." Rose Chen, then 72 years old, finally found peace. 43 years of uncertainty and grief were replaced with Margaret's heroic truth. "My daughter was an angel," said Rose. "Now I know she became a real angel." In 1995, Margaret Chen's story received national attention. CBS News featured her story on 60 Minutes. The program comprehensively covered Margaret's life, service, and sacrifice. The TV program generated a massive public response. Viewers were inspired by Margaret's courage and dedication. Many viewers sent letters expressing admiration and gratitude. The program's impact was also felt at the political level. Congress members proposed legislation for Margaret's recognition. In 1996, House Resolution 2087 was passed, honoring First Lieutenant Margaret Chen for extraordinary heroism during the Korean War and recognizing the sacrifice of all Asian American service members who gave their lives in defense of freedom. The resolution officially recognized Margaret and acknowledged Asian American military contributions. In 1997, William Chen made a major decision. He decided to donate Margaret's medical kit for public education. The kit was donated to the National Museum of American History. The museum created a special permanent exhibit in Margaret's honor. Exhibit title: Angel of Mercy, The Margaret Chen Story. Exhibit components: interactive timeline, Margaret's childhood and education, military training and Korea deployment, final mission and capture, discovery and recognition, artifact display, original medical kit, non-classified items, personal photographs, family letters, military decorations, POD testimonies, multimedia presentation, interviews with rescued POWs, family members' recollection, military historians' analysis, Korean War context, educational component, Korean War overview, medical corps role, intelligence operations, Asian American military service. The exhibit generated a powerful visitor response. School groups, veterans, families, thousands of people learned Margaret's story. Visitor feedback was consistently positive. Margaret Chen's story is incredibly inspiring. She is a real American hero. My grandfather was a Korean War veteran. This exhibit helped me better understand his experience. Asian American women's military contributions are underrepresented. Margaret's story fills this gap. In 1999, an unexpected development occurred. The Chinese government declassified portions of Korean War records. Among these records were documents about Margaret Chen's case. Chinese records revealed Margaret's final days from a different perspective. Major Liu's reports documented Margaret's extraordinary resistance. Liu's report to his superior. American nurse Chen extremely stubborn. Intelligence extraction impossible. Subject showed remarkable dedication to country and comrades. Despite physical deterioration, refused cooperation. Recommend immediate transfer to high-security facility. Subject possesses valuable information but extraction unlikely through conventional methods. This report was never implemented. Margaret died before the transfer. Chinese records also revealed the impact of the POW escape operation. The rescue of 31 escaped POWs significantly damaged Chinese morale. Chinese analysis. Chen operation demonstrated American intelligence capabilities behind our lines. Security protocols must be enhanced. Individual operatives can cause major disruption. These documents further confirm the strategic importance of Margaret's mission. In 2001, following the September 11 attacks, Margaret's story gained new relevance. Her sacrifice and dedication became a source of inspiration for modern service members. Military medical personnel adopted Margaret as a role model. The Army Nurse Corps developed programs honoring her memory. In 2003, the Margaret Chen Leadership Award was established. The award is presented annually to outstanding medical personnel. Award criteria: exceptional patient care, leadership under pressure, dedication to service, personal sacrifice for others. The first award recipient was Captain Sarah Rodriguez. Rodriguez had shown exceptional service in field hospital operations in Iraq. Margaret Chen's example inspires me daily, said Rodriguez. She represents the highest standards of medical personnel. Margaret's nephews and nieces continued her legacy. Several family members pursued military or medical careers. Margaret's niece, Dr. Jennifer Chen, became a pediatric surgeon. She established a hospital wing dedicated to Margaret's memory. Aunt Margaret started a tradition of service in our family, said Jennifer. She taught us the importance of helping others. Margaret's nephew, Colonel David Chen, completed a 25-year career in the Army Medical Corps. During his period stationed in Korea, he followed Margaret's footsteps. Serving in Korea held special meaning, said David. It was an honor to serve in the land where Aunt Margaret sacrificed. In 2010, on the 60th anniversary of the Korean War, the South Korean government gave Margaret Chen special recognition. President Lee Myung-bak awarded Margaret the posthumous Order of Military Merit. This was the highest Korean military honor given to a foreign service member. The award ceremony was held in Seoul. Margaret's family members attended. President Lee's speech. Lieutenant Margaret Chen sacrificed her life for Korean freedom. Her courage and dedication embody the spirit of the Korean-American alliance. Margaret's heroism didn't just save American soldiers. She contributed to the Korean people's struggle for freedom. This service will never be forgotten. At the ceremony, a memorial plaque was unveiled in Margaret's honor at Seoul National Cemetery. Analysis of Margaret's medical kit contributed to modern military medicine. Her innovative approaches influenced current practices. Dr. Michael Thompson, a military medical researcher, studied Margaret's methods. Margaret Chen achieved maximum effectiveness with limited resources. Her improvisation skills have been incorporated into modern field medicine principles. Margaret's techniques: triage under pressure, rapid patient assessment, resource prioritization, decision-making protocols, multi-role functionality, medical care, intelligence gathering, leadership coordination, improvised medical solutions, equipment modification, alternative treatment methods, emergency procedures. These principles were integrated into modern military medical training. Margaret's story reached an international audience. Her story was translated into multiple languages. The International Red Cross featured Margaret as exemplary medical personnel. Her dedication set a standard for the global medical community. Ornum Peacekeeping Medical Units established the Margaret Chen Award. The award is given to medical personnel showing exceptional service in conflict zones. Margaret's story was used to promote women's military service. NATO countries featured her example in female recruitment campaigns. Although Margaret's story was largely revealed, some mysteries remained. Unanswered questions. A full intelligence network. Who were Margaret's intelligence contacts? What happened to other members of the network? Mission authorization. Who authorized Margaret's dual mission? Where in the military hierarchy did this decision come from? Chinese informants. How did Margaret obtain Chinese military information? Were there sources inside other operations? Was Margaret's mission part of a larger intelligence operation? Were there other similar missions? These questions remained unanswered due to classification requirements. The medical kit found after 40 years became more than just a historical artifact. It became a powerful symbol. The kit represents multiple meanings: medical dedication, commitment to the healing mission, military service, loyalty and sacrifice to country, human courage, moral strength in extreme circumstances, cross-cultural bridge, recognition of Asian American contribution. Museum visitors show emotional responses when seeing the kit. The object's simple appearance conceals a profound story. Visitor journal entries. Margaret's medical kit taught me the real meaning of courage. This simple bag represents an extraordinary woman's life. Margaret's sacrifice reminds us of freedom's price. Margaret's story maintains relevance for medical personnel in modern conflicts. Medical professionals serving in Iraq, Afghanistan, and other deployments see Margaret as a source of inspiration. Captain Lisa Park, an Army nurse who served in Afghanistan. Margaret Chen's story gives strength during difficult times. She shows that doing the right thing is possible in impossible circumstances. Modern military medical personnel apply Margaret's example on a daily basis. Patient care prioritization, resource management, leadership under pressure, moral decision-making. Margaret Chen's story contains powerful lessons for future generations. Moral courage, the importance of doing the right thing despite personal cost, professional excellence, maintaining the highest standards in difficult circumstances, service above self, the value of personal sacrifice for the greater good, cross-cultural contribution, contributions to American society from people of diverse backgrounds, persistence of truth, the tendency for hidden stories to eventually be revealed. These lessons maintain relevance in contemporary challenges. In 2023, on the 30th anniversary of Margaret's medical kit discovery, surviving family members reflected. William Chen's son, Michael Chen, described the family impact of Margaret's story. Learning at Margaret's real story changed our family. We learned she wasn't just a war casualty but a genuine hero. Her courage and sacrifice gave our family a sense of purpose. Each of us tries to continue Margaret's legacy in different ways. Family members perpetuate Margaret's values in various fields: medical professional, military service, community leadership, educational advocacy. Margaret Chen's medical kit, after waiting 40 years under glaciers, delivered a powerful message. Heroes sometimes remain unrecognized, but their sacrifice is eternal. Truth eventually surfaces, even if patience is required. Individual actions can change the course of history. Courage is not limited by size or gender. Service to others is life's highest calling. Margaret's final notebook entry perfectly captures this message. Dear family, I did the right thing. It's not surviving that matters, but living right. Use this information. Don't let more children be lost in this war. These words summarize Margaret's philosophy. Life's value is measured not in its duration, but in its service. Margaret Angel Chen's story was fully revealed thanks to the medical kit found after 40 years. She wasn't just a disappeared nurse. She was an extraordinary hero. Her sacrifice, freedom of 31 American POWs, valuable intelligence information, example of ultimate service, bridge between cultures, inspiration for future generations. The medical kit was Margaret's final gift. The items and messages inside eternally preserved her courage, dedication, and love. Today, Margaret's legacy continues. Military medical personnel follow her example. Asian American communities take pride in her achievements. Families honor her sacrifice. Margaret Chen proved that heroes come in all forms. Sometimes the most powerful heroes are ordinary people who make extraordinary choices in extraordinary circumstances. Her medical kit was a simple container, but the truth inside touched countless lives and continues to do so. Margaret's final words will echo through generations. Living right is more important than surviving. This wisdom is Margaret Angel Chen's eternal gift to humanity. Today, In 2025, Margaret Chen's story continues to receive worldwide recognition. Netflix is producing a documentary series about her life. Major publishers are publishing her biography. But the most important legacy lies in a simple truth. One person's courage can change the world. Margaret's medical kit proved that sometimes the smallest objects carry the biggest truths. Her sacrifice will not be forgotten. Her courage will continue to inspire. Her truth will always be remembered. Margaret Angel Chen, American hero, Korean War legend, eternal inspiration. Her medical kit told the truth, and the truth set her story free.